Guys, I want to talk to you about servicing today. You'll see on the counter here I got several things laid out, and we're just going to walk around and we're going to talk about everything I got laid out on the counter, how important it is, the importance of which. I'll give you some ideas of when you're supposed to be worried about these products. But this air filter right here is the primary reason that I want to have this conversation today. You see how dirty it is, and you can just tell it's been full of mud. And this air filter right here literally cost a customer around $7,000, and it's just lack of service and not taking care of your stuff. And when I see that, it just hurts my feelings so bad that a customer has to go through that. And that's what the purpose of this video is going to be, is just for some education. I want to just talk to you about how important all of this stuff is, and what you need to do to maintain. But this air filter was in a 950. This 950 didn't get bought from us. It's not even from this area. It's not one of ours, and it's not anything that we had anything to do with, but the customer had it at a different shop, and he wanted a second opinion of what was going on, and we ended up finding out the same thing the other shop told him. But we just wanted to show why, and it's just just a costly mistake. But air filters, if you read your service repair manuals, and hey, and this video also is not just for CF Moto, it's for Honda, Can-Am, Polaris. It's for all brands, and it can even be for your riding lawnmower, your dirt bike. This is going to apply to everything. But your book won't tell you when to replace your air filter, because it depends on what kind of riding conditions you've been riding in. If you're riding up and down the roads, that person can usually get around 500 miles out of an air filter before he has to touch it. But it's been really dry this summer here in Mississippi, and it's real dusty. If we go riding right now, it's dusty. So if I clean my air filter today and I rode all day long, I'm gonna need to clean my air filter again tomorrow before I ride again. And if I ride again, like if I go on a 3-day weekend at B&B or Mudslingers or any of these other parks, I'm either going to need to carry an extra filter with me to change, or I'm going to have some compressed air and there's things I need to clean it back up, because you cannot ride all weekend on a single air filter without cleaning it with the dusty conditions we have right now. Now keep hoping we're going to get some rain soon, because again, when all condition changes when you have to clean your air filter. Right now, we're having to clean basically every ride. If we could just get some rain to settle this dust, then we could probably run 250 miles. That's just me kind of guessing. It's just really going to depend on your conditions. But 500 miles, if you're riding up and down the roads, like if you're just a road rider, that's a fairly good air filter cleaning interval. Somebody that's riding on the road some and off-road some, and in normal conditions when it's not been raining, around 250 miles. But when you've been riding in really extreme dusty conditions like we're having in Mississippi right now, you're gonna have to clean this air filter daily if you ride all day long, or if you want me to put it in some sort of miles. If you go over 100 miles right now, you've made a mistake in Mississippi with the dust that we got right now. But that's what's going on with this filter. It's just some bad dust, but also sinking it in a mud hole. A paper filter, when that paper gets wet, it's just not good for mud. It just ruins it. You got to take it out, throw it away. I can tell by looking at this filter, somebody's had their hands on it. They've tried to clean on it a little bit. They've even dented it right there, if you can see. So I know they've had it out, but guys, you've got to replace this when it gets in this kind of conditions. Sometimes you can blow an air filter out, but sometimes you just have to replace it. A few of the things that warrants when you change an air filter is when you blow it out, if it's not still good and white, when it starts changing colors like this one, or you look in there and it's distorted in there because of water, or if you ever get a dent like whatever happened there, if you get that, you got to change this air filter, not just clean it. This filter is way past being cleanable. But I'm gonna lay this filter to the side for a minute, and let's talk about what's good filters and so I guess some of this comes down to opinion sometimes. I don't like paper filters, and if I was going to put a new filter in it every 100 miles and didn't want to clean it, then I'm not so much against a paper filter. But when you ride like we do in all conditions, mud, rain, water, whatever it might be, I really just love the unifilters. They're foam filters, whether this is a paper filter. I started taking it out of the pack, but I didn't figure it'd be necessary. Most everybody knows what a unifilter is. Don't matter what brand you ride, I'm telling you, the people that buy these unifilters, their units will usually last longer. With a unifilter, you don't clean them like you would this one with compressed air. We use the Maxima air filter oil and cleaner. I'll give you a little brief description on how to use this cleaner, but definitely read the instructions on the cleaner, do what it says to do. But you take this foam filter and you go to a warm sink somewhere and you spray the cleaner on it and you just massage it all in the filter. And some people will take the outer red cover off and clean it without it on. Some people do it the other way, and it's been a large debate who's doing it right. And I'm not going to get into that today. You can clean it how you want to on that part. I think both will be sufficient. But you spray your cleaner on it, massage it in, you go to a water and you rinse it out with warm hot water. Very important that you don't spray compressed air in this foam filter. So these numbers that I'm fixing to tell you is not exact numbers, but I'm just using it for an example. This filter will filter down to a certain number of microns, and when you take 150 pounds of air pressure and you spray through this foam filter, you're blowing them holes up bigger and it won't come back down. So it's not gonna filter as good as it did before you put the compressed air in it. So never use the air compressor to clean it. Only use the air filter oil and only clean it with warm water and then let it set dry. I tell most people, and what I do myself, I want 2 filters. I keep one on the shelf that's ready to go. If I was to clean this morning, I want it to be ready to ride. So you can't just clean it and then go ride it 15 minutes later when you clean it properly with warm water, because you gotta let it dry. So you may want to get 2 filters if you're doing the unifilter. And then Una even makes their own air filter oil, and I figure they probably make cleaner even though I haven't seen it. But I'm really partial to the Fab 1 from back in the race days. The Fab 1 is what every racer uses. We just really like the Maxima Fab 1, and it has proven itself over and over. But you got the cleaner, and you can buy these separate, but you also got your oil in this container. So once we've cleaned our air filter, or if it's a new filter and we've just taken it out of the pack, the first thing we have to do is we got to spray this oil around this filter. And I've had so many people over the 24 years we've been in business say, hey, can we not just put car engine oil on the filter or just some other kind of oil? Well, guys, if you've ever had your hands, I just noticed that says it on the top right there, super tacky. If you've ever had your hands on this oil right here, you could literally just put it and touch that rag and it'd pick that rag up. It is very sticky oil, and that is key to keeping the dirt, grime, and dust and things out of your motor. I want to show you this product here. This is called an outerwear. If this filter, I ain't gonna get this dirty on this, but if this filter right here was out of this pack, you'll go ahead and put your oil on this filter and everything just like we've talked about. I really highly recommend this outerwear. I wish I'd have brought some water in here, maybe even some dust to sprinkle it where you could actually see what it'll do. But this outerwear, it's gonna go around this filter like so. And what happens, you won't put any oil on your outerwear, but what happens is this outerwear will be in your air box and it'll be protecting your filter like this. It still breathes good, it gets all the air it needs to it. But if water and even dust hits it, it'll just shed it right off to the side and it'll go down and it'll lay in the bottom of your air box. Everybody should invest in a unifilter and an outerwear. I had a customer from Memphis in here this past weekend, and I was just telling him that the single best $100 bill he will ever spend on his Can-Am that we're fixing to do some tuning on for him is for a unifilter and an outerwear. That is, when it comes to taking care of your unit, that is the most important thing. I'm gonna get into some oil here, and people's a little bit more accepted to changing their oil because they're used to changing oil in their car. But people that's driving cars, they don't have this air filter situation to worry about as much, so they're not thinking about it. And if there was one thing that I can encourage you to do, I don't want you not to change your oil, but air filter is way more important than the oil. So be sure to keep that air filter clean. And let's go on down the list here. I'm just gonna show you this filter now. If we was trying to sell you a filter for the Polaris or Can-Am, right now we don't have the Team MSC filter for them 2 units, even though we will in the future. Definitely the Unifilter on a Polaris and Can-Am. I'm just going to show this, and if you do have a CF Moto, we have equivalent foam filter as the Uni for your CF Motos, and we'll have it for Polaris and stuff very soon. Now this, I really like this Bell Ray grease, and this is what we use in our own personal stuff. And this is probably not one of the most, like, I'm not going to just stress out that you don't use more specific grease for off-road stuff. This is a waterproof grease, what I really like, and I guess all greases are waterproof to a certain extent. But the temperature ratings, it is better if you use a grease like this, but as long as you're greasing, we're not going to stress just a whole lot on grease. I pulled a quart of oil. I wish I brought a filter out here. Forgot to bring an oil filter. I pulled a quart of AMSOIL. I want to talk about oil changes and oil change intervals. When you go buy a brand new four-wheeler, the most overlooked thing is people don't do their initial break-in. You should do that initial break-in, because that's getting, when they built that motor and they've machined them cases and they've cut them gears, it could have little imperfections, and you need to do your first 100-mile service on all brand stuff. And that's just getting anything that any imperfections out of that engine at an early stage in its life. And then after that first initial oil change, we recommend 100 miles on the initial, and then every 500 miles change the engine oil and filter. And we're going to talk about full servicing in a minute, what you do at 1,000 miles. And one of the things that I want to talk about on oil too, the ATV and motorcycle oil is not much more expensive than a car engine oil, but it definitely has stuff for the clutches in this oil. You need to be running the correct oil. And I'm not saying you got to run AMSOIL, even though it's one of my oils of choice. Every manufacturer's got their own oil, and it is absolutely worth the extra $10 you're going to spend on oil for that unit that you just paid $15,000 for. It just don't make no sense to pay $15,000 for a unit and then try to save $10 on oil and not have exactly what you need in the ratings. And just use the right oil. There's many brands you can use. I'm not saying you got to use the AMSOIL, but you really need to use the correct oil in your unit. And don't, some people that's new to this industry, they get caught up in Facebook. We all love Facebook. If we didn't love Facebook, you wouldn't see this video. But they get caught up in hearing other people's opinions. Some people say, hey, I run Rotella. Well, I've got 5 dump trucks and I've got several dozers and backhoes. I love Rotella oil. But Rotella is not made for what we're doing in this off-road event. It's not the right weight. It's just, guys, I just don't recommend Rotella, and I know I'm going to get attacked on this video for that, and that's fine. I love Rotella oil. I got several pieces of equipment I run it in. So I love Rotella, but it's not the right oil for your four-wheelers. Spend the extra $10, get the right oil. Have the confidence when you go in, and this is for all brands too. This has nothing to do with CF Moto. But if you have a major engine catastrophe that you're wanting your warranty to pay for, if you've been running Rotella or some of these other oils in it that's not the right, there'll be API, SL, JSO, MA. There's a lot of this stuff that's important. They may ask you to send the oils, or may ask the shop to send the oil sample in, and if you've run the wrong oils, you may be have your warranty in jeopardy there. And definitely cleaning your air filter. While we're talking about the case of a warranty, you can't expect to have an air filter like that and dirty like that and expect that engine to last. And at the same time, it's not right for these people that get on Facebook and say, hey, I didn't know you had to keep the air filter clean, and then expect the manufacturer to warranty the unit after you didn't keep your air filter clean and do your part. It's a must as a customer to do these things, and I don't want to see you get caught up to where you can't get your warranty done because you've not done your part, and you've got to do your part. Just going to show you this 5-into-1 Helix. If I said this in terms of just explaining to you what this is. It's a fuel injection carburetor cleaner, kind of like Seafoam or Startron or several different things. And it's just what we found to be the best. Several years ago, we took, I can't remember exactly how many it was, but about 5 mason jars, and we put the gas from our local gas station in it, and we set it on a shelf. And one of them didn't have anything in it. One of them we put the Helix in, one of them we put the Startron in, one of them we put the Seafoam in. It could have been more than 5 because it was several different, like we even used Stay-Bill in one. And we set them jars up and we watched it for a week, for a month, I believe we went over a year, but I can't really remember what the time frames was on it. But we watched what it would do, and this Helix 5-into-1 absolutely took care of that gas better than any of the rest of them. And you could even take this Helix in like the jar that didn't have any in it, and when that gas separated, you could pour this Helix in it, and it would just, the chemical reaction, it would just bring everything back together. But let me move on. And a lot of people, when I start talking about coolant, I want to, in my mind, I'm just asking myself, what do I see customers do that's wrong with coolant? Well, this could be argued, but I believe in running the right things, and no matter what piece of equipment you have, I believe in running the right things in it. And this is for power sports engines, dirt bikes, 4-wheelers, aluminum engines. But one of the main things that I, kind of like when I was talking about the air filters, I want to talk about coolant, what you can do wrong. A lot of people think that coolant is only for antifreeze, and it's not. It's also for overheating. There's additives in here that keeps you from overheating. I can remember, it ain't been just a real long time ago, I had a customer that brought their 4-wheeler, they had an 800XC, brought it in and was telling me about the problem they're having with it overheating. And we struggled for a little bit trying to figure out what in the world was going on with this 4-wheeler. And luckily the customer, he just stayed with us while we was looking at it for him, and we done some riding and testing, and sure enough, he was overheating, but the fan was coming on good, the coolant appeared to look full, everything just looked fine, and it should not have been overheating. And we started even looking, is the fan running backwards? What's going on here? Well, come to find out, he had been at Mudslingers and sunk his 4-wheeler in a mud hole, and it overheated. Well, when it overheated, it bowled the coolant out of the radiator, and he just went to the creek and just put pure water in it. Well, when it had that pure water in it and no coolant additive in it that the antifreeze has got in it, it would overheat at a lot lower temperature. I don't know what the lower temperature is on it, but like the boiling point of this is a lot higher than the boiling point of just plain water. So he was just boiling, thinking he could just pour plain water. It's hot summer, so they didn't need antifreeze. It was just a quick, cheap, easy, it's summertime, we don't need antifreeze thing in his mind, but he didn't realize that not having the additive for coolant in it, and it just kept causing him problems. We drained all of his water out. We come back and add the maximum coolant all to it. Everything was perfect. He was tickled to death. Another thing I said a minute ago was going to talk about engine oil changes, when you should, 100-mile break-in, then every 500 miles. Oh, and I want to go back to before I get started on the full service and differentials. One thing I want to say about oil change intervals, whether it be differentials or engines. So this 500 miles that we're talking about is under normal riding conditions. If you done something like sunk it in a mud hole, or you went down the highway 40 miles like you should not be doing on ATVs and stuff, if you done things that what we'll call extreme heat, any extreme conditions, the 500 miles that you can get out of an oil change is in normal operating conditions. Extreme should be cut in half. So if you're an extreme mud rider, you're an extreme road rider, if you're an extreme anything, you need to be changing your oil at 250 miles. And don't forget that. If you want that engine to last, you got to take care of it. I got one of my oldest mechanics here. His name is Tim. He's been with me longer than any other mechanic, and he's always had this saying, and he said his daddy was a mechanic too, and he's always said, you're going to pay for them oil changes, and you can pay for them one at a time, or you're going to pay for them all at one time, but you're going to pay for them oil changes. And it's so right. The people that don't want to spend the money to change their oil right, you're gonna pay for it. You're just gonna have to pay for it all at one time. And I guarantee you it's cheaper to do it as you're supposed to than it is to come back and you just don't want to have to pay for it all at one time. Then I brought a battery out here, and the reason I wanted to bring a battery out here is because I see so many people taking jumper cables, and they'll go to the park knowing their battery's dead, or sometimes it'll hold a charge, sometimes it won't. I just wanted to explain to you a little bit about what you're doing. You're hooking jumper cables to that battery, and you're taking a chance on backfeeding current through that system. And the systems on these four-wheelers is way more sensitive than a lot of things out on the market. You don't need to be jumping batteries off. It's gonna cost you money. So many people will tell me, hey, it was starting fine and my battery went dead and I hooked jumper cables to it. Now they replaced their battery, but now it won't start because they blowed a fuse or whatever it might be. So I just wanted to mention, when your battery gets low, replace it. It will save you money. You're gonna have to replace that battery anyway, whether it be then or a week or two later. It's going on out. Go ahead and replace it. Save yourself the trouble of the mistake of jumping it off and blowing things you don't need to, burn your stator up or fry your ECM. You just don't want to do them things. And I would just mention, if you do buy your battery from teammscparts.com, it don't matter if it's for a Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, Segway, CF Moto, whatever it is, all of our batteries will come with a 2-year warranty. Well, that is all I got to talk about in this video. If you got any questions, comments, you'd like to know any more information, just comment on this post and I'll be watching it. I'd love to help you understand how to service your units to where you don't end up like the guy that's got this filter right here. And I could repeat this scenario right here. I could repeat this once a week, showing you and customers that just by not cleaning the air filter, it's going to cost this customer probably around $7 grand to buy a motor and have it installed and do what he needs to do. And it was all because he either didn't know to or didn't think it was important to clean his air filter. And this video is for the people that just didn't know to. There's nothing I can do about the ones that's just being lazy, and I just said that for fun. All right, guys, I sure do appreciate your business. Anything you need, you can find it at teammscparts.com. Thank you.